Lisa, who was the command module pilot of Apollo 14. He flew to the moon on January 31st and splashed down on February 9th. I'm so incredibly moved and honored to be here at PARI today at such an historic place on such a historic day. What we have here today is a very special tree whose seeds went to the moon and almost 240,000 miles in space and back. That is really something when you think about that the International Space Station is in orbit in the Earth between 200 and 240 miles. So these seeds went out 240,000 miles. My father was the command module pilot, which meant that he stayed solo in the command module while his two crewmates, Alan Shepard and Ed Mitchell, descended to the lunar surface. So he stayed and rotated for 3 days while they did the experiments on the moon, picked up moon rocks, bounced around, hit the golf ball on the moon. And so my father was the one who took him there and back. He used to say he was in a smaller fraternity than the moonwalkers because 6 Americans walked on the moon, but only, 12 walked on the moon, but only 6 got to solo. So I was happy about that. I had not heard of PARI until one of my neighbors, Elmer Gaudet, and his lovely wife, Joe, who are here today, told me about this place at a neighborhood Christmas party, and that it was a secret tracking station during the Apollo era, and I was not aware of that. And so we got into discussions, and we decided that this was a fitting and fine place to have a moon tree, and I know it'll be very happy here for the rest of its days. There were many things back in those. There were many things here that were secret during the Apollo time. As many of y'all know, we were in a space race with the Soviet Union. The feeling at that time was whoever dominated space would dominate the world. So when my father applied for NASA, he went under an assumed name. So there were a lot of secret things that happened during the Apollo era. However, the Russians suffered an accident with their, what would be equivalent to our Saturn V, and therefore we were able to complete the mission of sending a man on the moon before the end of the decade in 1969 with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, and Mike Collins was the command module pilot. My father always felt that space travel should at some point become routine. It is still a daring adventure. He was an adventurer. Apollo 14 fell on the heels of Apollo 13, which was they did get the crew back, but they weren't quite sure. So the Apollo 14 mission was to complete what Apollo 13 could not do. But he felt like, just as the Wright brothers started with their first flight here in North Carolina, that at some point space travel should become commonplace. So hopefully one day we will be vacationing on the moon and going back to Mars. My father was able to name his command module, and in honor of the Wright brothers, he named his command module Kitty Hawk. So I think it's very appropriate. Kitty Hawk is now on display at the Kennedy Space Center down in Florida, so if you get a chance, please go see that. My father was a true adventurer. He loved going into the woods. He loved trees. He grew up in Oklahoma, and when he graduated from high school, he went to work with the Forest Service, and he became what is known as a smoke jumper. And he jumped out of airplanes and into remote areas. I know Pisgah's a national forest, but I don't know how big it is. I don't know if they have smoke jumpers anymore, but anyway, he was a smoke jumper in Oregon. And so when he was chosen for Apollo 14, the Forest Service approached him about taking approximately 500 seeds with them to the moon. So he took them in his personal kit. They stayed in the command module. They rotated for those 3 days, and then they came back and they splashed down. Now, during those days, they weren't sure if the astronauts would contract some, weird space disease and wipe out all of civilization. So they literally incinerated the air that they breathed when they came back. They weren't sure if these trees would grow normal. They weren't sure if they would grow in some strange way. So they were sent to an experimental station with the Forest Service in Mississippi and one in California. But as you can see here today, with the second generation moon tree, they grow quite normal and healthy, and I have no doubt it's going to try and go back to the moon. So my job, I've started a Moon Tree Foundation, is to carry on these second generation trees because many of them were planted during the bicentennial of the United States in 1976. And so they're dying out, either by disease or people don't know and they're accidentally cut down. They've just been destroyed. So there's such an inspirational living legacy of an important time in American history. So our job is carrying on these second generation moon trees with their DNA from originals. So this tree right here is from Mississippi State University. My mother was from Mississippi. She actually went to grade school with Elvis Presley. So when I was growing up, I don't know who was more famous, Daddy going to the moon or my mother knowing Elvis Presley. But anyway, my father planted an original sycamore moon tree at Mississippi State, and I've been working with the company Historic Trees, and so they made sure that this DNA is pure. And so here we are today with this tree. So we're going to dedicate this tree today in the name of science and nature, and again for it to be a living legacy that will hopefully inspire somebody to maybe hear your children to go back, and we're going to go to Mars and back to the moon and beyond. So I think it's wonderful. Today, of course, we're seeing the solar eclipse. So when the moon goes in front of the sun, just know that there are 6 American flags planted on that moon, and no other nation can boast that. So it is indeed an historic day. I did find out something. Joe Collins, who is here today, he was here with NASA and actually tracked the Apollo 14 splashdown in the Atlantic Ocean and helped to call the families. We were in Houston at the time. They based the families in Houston, and so we were able to watch the splashdown at our RCA color TV, and shortly thereafter they received a phone call, and it was thanks to Mr. Collins here. So that was interesting to know about. But anyway, there are a lot of unknowns, and I would hope people would go and search for those unknowns. My father used to say, man is not destined to just live out their days in one place, that you have to search, that you want to go over that next mountain just to see what it is. You go across the seas to see what's beyond there, and that is one of the main reasons why we went to the moon. Because we don't know, and we're here to learn about the unknown and to explore. So I hope this tree inspires everyone, and I thank you for your time today.
Come on down.
Why don't we do it together? Somebody's dug here before. There you go.
I think there'll be more people that'll do a shovel pull.
You loosen this oil
This is
up.
y'all's tree now.
Look up, Rosemary.
Shoot for it.
Rosemary,
Stop
look
the
up.
camera. All right. Peace for all mankind.
Who's that?
Yeah, you've got a good idea on how we can do
You might have your brown paper. All right.
Ken, look around here.
Elmer, you want to put a shovel pull in? You want to put a shovel pull in?
You're losing your phone.
Come on.
Okay. You're going to do the last one.
Here you go, buddy. Don.
Done. Okay. All right. We're ready for the photo. Last photo op.
Last photo op. No, let everybody get photos.
All right. To the moon.
All right.
Very nice.